I'm so happy 45 young change makers from 20 different countries are here in Lugano today. They didn't only come for this forum today, it's only the culmination after 9 days of seminar where they have discussed, debated, where they could have a safe dialogue in a safe space.
Università della Svizzera Italiana is the most international university, public university here in Switzerland. We are really focused on intercultural communication and understanding. So people who go to a university to explore different point of views, to meet different people.
Switzerland has a long history of close cooperation with all states of the Middle East and Mediterranean area, thanks in particular to a dense network of diplomatic representations. I am therefore always keen to hear regional insights emerging from your informal discussions at the MEM Summer Summit. To develop the MENA strategy, we conducted broad consultations, including MENA embassies in Bern, associations, the private sector, and academia. Exchanges between MEM participants and the MENA division of my department were also a source of inspiration.
As the president of the Confederation said, though, there are challenges, but there are also opportunities. The youth with whom we work understands that we do not have the luxury to delay action on the environment. Now, we all know that the notion of mobility is intimately linked, at the end of the day, to the notion of acceptance of one another. Indeed, we are convinced, as ever, that physical exchanges are the golden path toward a better knowledge of the other, and therefore toward concrete dialogue. I have great faith that this vibrant youth, that is for the most part convinced that we need to see a convergence of cultures, will prevail.
I really admire the idea of transformation, because I think it's not just attending college to transform, but the MEM forum today is as well an opportunity for all of us to transform. And I think in the past 10 days, all of you have been transforming and thinking about how can we use our gifts in service of this world together and connecting. Such a powerful vigor coming in today, this morning, the power of young people, adults gathering in partnership and harmony to create their own unique narrative. No matter what topic it is, and we saw 3 different panels, whether it's climate change, food security, tolerance, religion, geopolitics, or economy, there is a growing consensus among us all that our generation deserves a new kind of narrative. A narrative that is not made of conflicting opposites, not made of white versus black, right versus left, east versus west. A narrative that is inclusive of all of us, all shades of us. A novel narrative that is authored by us. And before you tell me, oh, Shamma, we're just young individuals, we have no power whatsoever over such big entities or government, I'm here to reassure you that you are more powerful than you think. But you know what adds up the most is what you're doing today, making your voice heard. At the heart of every ecosystem is a propeller, and I believe MEM can be this propeller. When you all connect, collaborate, and innovate and create the future that you aspire to live in, one action at a time. I'm beyond excited for the next climate change narrative and the next narrative in every geopolitics topic that is authored by you, by us, by young people.
Last year, I was already a young change maker, and now we're doing the takeover, so continue doing that. And now we're trying to do what is best for our region and for Europe as people who understand the interconnectedness of the 2 regions. This year, we have the geopolitical impact of the Russo-Ukrainian war on our region.
What have been the consequences of this sort of Russian aggression?
The truth is that in vis-a-vis the Russian aggression of Ukraine, we have seen a fragmentation across the Middle East and North Africa region of, a slightly different positions and slightly different reactions and priorities. But we have seen one common dynamic across the region. And that has been that, we have now experienced a new chapter in U.S. relations with not only the Arab monarchies of the Gulf, but arguably the entire region. We have seen regional countries really embracing that competitive multipolarity that has been triggered by the invasion of Ukraine.
On the positive note, with the U.S. disengagement, or at least less focus on the region and more focusing on Russia and China, there is some room for regional dialogue between the countries that have stable government in power, because they have to deal with one another ultimately.
So the analytical silence, or at least the media silence, is being used by those two powers, Turkey and Russia, to remain physically entrenched in Libya. And the reason I mentioned the Tripoli conflict is because those two powers cannot really prevent a conflict between Libyans within Tripoli. This is a reminder that fault lines continue evolving between Libyans. So this is important. Libyans continue being the #1 force of disagreement, or also in terms of peace, when there's a peace moment in their own country. So Libya is not determined by foreign meddlers, even if foreign meddling is substantial.
We move specifically to the MEM, to the MENA region, try to see how things are going there. So the energy transition has started, is nothing new, but still some of these countries have today the lowest share of renewable energies, with some differences, and we will try to get into some of these.
One of the things that we are alerted to is the importance of the green transition and the importance of becoming self-reliant and diversifying our energy routes and our energy sources, both as European Union, but also on a worldwide level.
As you might know, Morocco is the only African country that has a power cable to Europe. And at the same time, it is like one of the key players in the Mediterranean energy plan and solar plan. And putting a pin on that, going back to the Noor solar project, it basically generates solar power systems from a mega-scale panel surface of approximately 1,921 square feet.
You had a lot of energy ministers or energy transition ministers from Europe, which were traveling to the Middle East and North Africa area 1 year ago, asking for a faster energy transition toward renewable. You've seen those same ministers in the past few months and past few weeks going to each producing country in the Middle East and North Africa, begging for more oil and more gas.
We need to be looking at all of the opportunities with a clear vision, as was said before.
So there's so many creative solutions, and yet I think the problem is that our global community is focused on extraction and consumption and overproducing.
In the MENA region, you have some very long for existing crises, for existing COVID, for existing current war crisis in Ukraine and so on. The first one is Yemen, which for a long time had what we call a famine-like situation in some region. You have Syria, where you have 12 million of food insecure. And then you have Lebanon, but still in relative terms is quite impressive, because you have more than 2 million of food insecure of our population. If you count also the refugees of almost 5 million.
We've been talking about the relation between the uses of the resources, the best use of resources in order to take into consideration, including the climate change effects, water, land, and others, by using maybe technology.
So with Jordan being one of the countries struggling with water scarcity, but on the other side, there were some good examples from Jordan. For example, using the wastewater management for irrigation. And as we have seen, my colleague had mentioned using the drones. Actually, there was a project in Jordan in collaboration between scientists and the industrial sector to use the drones on the micro-irrigation in Jordan.
United Nations Secretary General Guterres, actually, he said that there is more than enough food in the world now, but we need to all act together. And this, what I mean by participation, is actually the meaningful and productive participation of all these different actors and organizations and institutions operating firstly at the local level, maybe, because we were also talking about the importance of municipalities operating at the local level, but which also transcends to the national and to the global level in the end.
We are only a few days away from the tragic murder attempt of Salman Rushdie.
How do you respond to statements that are offensive to your faith? You don't have to like it, but what's your response? And of course, There's unfortunately a militant response. That's the extreme position. That says, well, whoever insults Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, or God or the Quran, but they say we will punish that person with violence, we will execute that person, kill that person, and we will do it, no matter where it happens. Again, this is a very extreme view. This is the extreme position, and obviously that's wrong. There's also the more, not extreme, but conservative position that is against these acts of violence, but which still thinks that blasphemy is a crime which should be punished in courts. I defend the third view, as I call it, the liberal view, and that response is, well, we will not use violence or coercion against, in matters of religion in general. Also, in the particular issue of blasphemy, in the Quran, actually there's a verse which tells Muslims what to do when people say things that are offensive to Islam. If you hear a group of people mocking God's revelations, then do not sit with them unless they engage in a different discourse. Do not sit with them. That's what the Quran says. If people are mocking your faith, if people are disrespectful with your faith, do not hang out with them, right? Don't be with them. It doesn't say go and kill them. It doesn't even say silence them. So it tells Muslims to have a dignified disengagement or maybe a boycott. So I think that should be the basis of Islamic response in the modern world. If there are people who say negative things about Islam, offensive things about the Prophet Muhammad.
I and Ahmed are very big believers that there is a place for artists at the table of policymaking and strategy. Artists can be the antenna of a society. Artists they are trained to imagine what other people can't imagine. Now, often they can't articulate that in KPIs and a clever strategy document with great language, but they do have this important role to play, especially now in this moment of climate change, of health emergency, and in Saudi Arabia of a great transformation.
The MEM is a safe space where we get to know each other's stories and therefore became part of them. Encounters helped us break the wall of fear of the unknown and made us embrace our differences, as well as the sense of belonging to a region with common history, but most of all, common future.